Welcome back. We're still following breaking news. One person in the 2600 block of East Auburn has been taken to UMC by EMS over concerns of Ebola. We've learned that person is in isolation. News Channel 11's Alex Zielinski is live at UMC and joins us once again. Alex.
Hey Sharon, yeah, we're standing outside UMC where, as you mentioned, the patient was taken, and we're joined again by Eric Finley with UMC. Sir, what is the hospital doing to protect the patients and make sure that they are not exposed?
The main thing we have to do at this point is to keep this patient in isolation, and that protects not only the other patients in the hospital but also our healthcare workers themselves. So that patient is in a negative airflow room, which means all the air from that room stays in that room. It's filtered and vented off. There's an ante-room, a little room in front of that where our nurses will go into, put on their protective clothing before they go in, and then they discard all that clothing and throw it in the trash once they leave that room. Actually inside that room before they step out. So the main thing is just to keep that patient put in isolation and away from everyone else.
And you mentioned the people who are tending to this patient. You touched on it a little bit, but what are they doing to make sure that we don't have a similar case that's happened in Dallas?
One of the things that the CDC has said they believe happened in Dallas was that proper protocols weren't followed in either putting on the protective clothing or in taking it off. The healthcare workers contaminated themselves. So we've been drilling our people quite a bit on how to wear that protective clothing, how to take it off. Everyone who puts that on is going to have someone with them to watch them do it, make sure they're doing it correctly, and also watch them while they're with that patient to alert them anything that they think might be going wrong. So we've put several steps in place to protect our own people.
And people that are visiting the hospital, entering the emergency room here, we've seen them with masks on. What other steps are being taken to protect those folks?
And we've handed those masks out in case this is a flu-like scenario. Again, we don't really know what we're dealing with yet until we actually run some tests. So in case this is a start of the flu season, we have handed out some masks just to protect those people walking in and out of the emergency room. But other than that, everyone here should be fine. We really feel like if our own healthcare workers wear that clothing properly and put it on and take it off properly, as well as our EMS folks, that everyone here should be well protected.
And what about the travel history of this patient? What all is known right now?
We do believe that person had recently traveled to parts of West Africa, which is one of the reasons why these precautions were put in place.
And along with that, we're reporting that he has nausea and diarrhea symptoms. Is that enough to trigger this Ebola-type response?
You know, Ebola really requires a number of things. It requires a high fever, severe flu-like symptoms, bleeding, coupled with a travel history. So I don't know exactly what all the symptoms were of this patient, but there were certainly enough that we felt like we had to initiate these isolation protocols. Ultimately, it will be up to the state of Texas and the CDC to determine whether or not a testing is to be done for Ebola, and we should know that by today.
And have you been in contact with the city health department in the city, and what have they told you?
Part of the protocol is for the hospital to contact the health department, and the health department then coordinates with the state and the CDC. So we've made those phone calls, and at this point we are waiting for the state to tell us whether or not they want to do an Ebola test.
And that Ebola test with the CDC, that takes 48 hours to be confirmed, is that correct?
It'll take 48 hours to get the test results back. The state actually does the test, and then the CDC will redo the test and confirm the findings. So all that takes about 2 days.
And any word of anyone else that this patient may have been in contact with?
I don't know, no.
And finally, people will hear this Ebola scare. They will be very concerned. What do they need to know as they kind of go throughout their day here in Lubbock in the following weeks?
You know, Ebola is a scary disease, and people have a right to be fearful of that. But I think it's important to remember that it's not easy to catch Ebola. Ebola is not spread by air. It is spread through physical contact and through bodily fluids. So you really have to be in close proximity, touching, exchanging bodily fluids with someone who has this virus. So it is something that is very scary if you do have it. But even if one person had it, this is not an outbreak situation. It's not a pandemic situation. It is difficult to catch this disease.
Okay. Eric Finley, thank you very much, sir. And Sharon, that's it for us here. We'll send it back to you.
All right. Informative. Thanks so much, Alex. Now, it was about 9 o'clock this morning when the hazmat crews were called out to that home in the 2600 block of East Auburn. That's where News Channel 11's Taylor Langston is joining us. Taylor?
Hey there, Sharon. Like you said, we are near the home of the man who was transported earlier. As you can see, still a whole lot going on out here right now. Fire trucks still here. Police department is still here. EMS units have been kind of coming and going throughout the morning. Lots of neighbors are standing outside of their homes looking on because everybody is a little bit concerned about what's going on right now. As you can see right over there in the back at the end of this block, there has been a decontamination tent that has been set up by Lubbock Fire and Rescue for those firefighters and those workers that are going inside of his home and coming back out for them to shower afterwards. Also, neighbors say that Animal Services was out here this morning removing animals from that home. Now, as we told you earlier in the show, that there were neighbors saying that the man did have children who lived at the home with him, but LISD is saying that they do not have children on record with that home address listed. And so, of course, as soon as we learn anything new, we will keep you updated. So stay with us on air and online at kcbd.com. We will also continue to update our mobile app. It's so easy. All you have to do is download it onto your phone from your app store, and you can have all of that information with you as soon as we learn anything more. Sharon, I'll send it back to you for now.
All right. Thanks so much, Taylor and Alex. Very good coverage. Also, Eric Finley, we appreciate him joining us during the newscast. He's told us steps have been put in place to protect everyone in the hospital, everyone going in and out of the hospital. It's important to note this coverage that we are presenting to you is based upon the response that this community has right now because of this situation and how it's being handled by the hospital and the police, the first responders, the firefighters. But we do know two things, as Eric Finley told us. The man has two symptoms, nausea and diarrhea. He does not have the high fever that's associated with it. And also, he told people that he had traveled to Africa. That's not been confirmed, like Eric said, but he told people that he did travel there. They're just taking every precaution that they can, which is what any of us would want at this point. They've contacted the health department, who's contacted the CDC. They will determine whether or not they will run an Ebola test on this gentleman. And if they do, then that takes a couple of days for it to come back and the results of that to get out. So once again, no reason to panic. Like Eric Finley said, we are reporting what we know at this point. We will continue to have it for you all day long today on air and online. That's it for us today at noon. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope you have a great afternoon.